my name is Melissa and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I am so happy to have you. Today I'm going to be talking about some fall book recommendations, specifically in the romance genre. I read a lot of romance. If you can't tell by my little bookshelves back here, I also read a lot of fantasy, and I'm starting to get into more thriller books. But that being said, I want to talk about some perfect fall reading and give you a little bit of love, a little bit of spice, a little bit of that steaminess, and I think these books have all of that. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I recently just did a spicy book recommendations, and I have 3 books from that list that I want to briefly just mention in this, so I'll leave a link to that video down below. But I think these books, because of their atmosphere, because of the topics and all of that, I think they are perfect for the fall reading months. The first one is A Lesson in Thorns by Simone. This one is super atmospheric. It's a group of friends that reunite, and they are kind of, the main character, she's trying to solve, what happened to her mother all those years ago who disappeared. And she's just, there's a lot of different tropes and a lot of different people in this book, and I absolutely love it. It's very steamy, very spicy. I think Simone writes her steamy scenes very, very well, and I definitely need to read more from this author. I have a few on my TBR that I can't wait to get to. But yes, if you're looking for something atmospheric, a little bit of a thriller, lots of romance, lots of different representation, definitely pick this one up. It's super good. The next book that I want to briefly mention is Wolf Song by Clune. This is a male-male werewolf shifter romance, and I think it is absolutely amazing. I love this author. I think pretty much any book that any book that he's written that I've read, I absolutely adored and loved. I love this author so much. I definitely think that if you are loving the paranormal vibes and want something that's going to be so much deeper, a lot more intense than you think from a werewolf shifter book, I think this is a great series to pick up. Each of the books is about a different couple, and yeah, I need to continue on with this series. It recently just finished, I think, last year, and I need to make sure I get it done. I've only read 2 books in this series, but so good. And the last honorable mention is going to be A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. I've mentioned this one probably in 3 of my most recent videos because I'm just so excited to talk about it. It's a reverse harem monster romance. The main character is an escort who works at this manor. Her clientele are monsters, and basically she loves her job. There's some thriller aspects to this. Someone's kind of after her, and yeah, you don't know what's going on. Monsters, reverse harem, need I say more? Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is one that I read several years ago, absolutely loved. Don't know if I've talked about it too much since my first video that I talked about it, and that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. This is one I know that a lot of people really enjoyed. I believe that there's a sequel out and possibly a 3rd one, but I haven't read them. I heard, not so great things, but I loved this first book. This is about a girl whose father, who she's estranged with, she hasn't seen him since she was a baby. She ends up going to Alaska where he owns this plane company, and she's going there to reunite with him because he has cancer. And this book is so sad but so amazing at the same time. Our main character, she runs a blog, so she loves to take photographs of herself and super fashionista, and trying to figure out how to live in this small town in Alaska, which is not about that. It's more about not survival, but more practicality than rather how to look cute. And Jonah is the main guy character who works for her father, and he's a super grumpy guy. She is the sunshine character. This is kind of hate to love, and I just adored this one so much. Obviously very sad. It deals, like I said, with cancer, illness, and just had me in tears at the end of it, but at the same time left me feeling like I was so happy. It did end up rather, the ending was quite wrapped up too nicely, but I enjoyed that. I needed that, especially after all the heartbreak that I went through. But this one, it was so good. I love the wilderness aspect of living in this small town in Alaska, of the city girl from Toronto. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this one. I know it's a lot of people's favorites and definitely a perfect book to pick up this season. The next couple books are ones from like a fantasy romance aspect, and the first one I'm going to talk about is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This, I've only read the first 2 books, but I flew through them. Even though they are quite chunky, I loved this. This is about a girl, what's her name? Poppy. Poppy is the maiden, and she's basically this figurehead, kind of like this sacrifice basically. She always has to wear a veil. In this society, she's kind of seen as this person who is holier than thou, and she is not allowed to talk to people. She's not allowed to just have any friends. And here comes this new guard, and he ends up breaking all these rules and kind of seeing who she is and interacting with her. And I did not see the twist in this book coming. I thoroughly enjoyed this. You see how wrong of a society this is, and I think this book has a great political like build up, and all throughout the first 2 books kind of seeing this journey that she goes on. And I just think the world just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and this has vampires, this has werewolves, this has, I don't know, greatness. I loved this one so much. And yeah, I really do enjoy Jennifer L. Armentrout's books, whether that be her contemporary, her young adult, or her fantasy romance. I think they are such a great one to pick up. This one, since it does have those, you know, elements of vampires and werewolves, perfect for the fall season. A YA romance that I read a couple years ago and thoroughly enjoyed was Serpent Dove. This is a witch and a witch hunter kind of arranged marriage, and it was so much fun to read. This I definitely think is not so much young adult, but rather new adult, since it does have a little spice thrown in there, but it's marketed towards young adult. This is definitely more on the older side of young adult if you are not one that really enjoys those young adult books. But I really like this. Like I said, she is a witch. She's trying to hide her powers. She has to end up getting married to this witch hunter, so she obviously has to not tell him who she truly is, and that makes for an interesting kind of take. They don't like each other. It's definitely hate to love, and it was just so good. That ending of this book, oh my gosh, the cliffhanger, so good. I flew through the last half of this book, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I still have the second book that is on my shelves. Need to pick it up. I don't know why I haven't. I think because I don't want to be let down from how much I loved this first installment. And the last book I'm going to talk about is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. This is an author that I've read every book that she's written except her most recent one, which I recently just hauled, and this is one of my favorites. It's a standalone young adult book. Oh my gosh, but so good. This is a girl named Alessandra. She is going to infiltrate the kingdom, marry the king, and kill him so she can take over. I loved this. Obviously, it has some romance, it has some fantasy elements. It was so good. I love that trope of trying to like infiltrate into palace society and all of that kind of stuff, kind of like spy-esque. But yeah, this one was so good. I loved it so much. I flew through this. Buddy read this book and I made so many notes. I highlighted a bunch of stuff, and almost at like the end of each chapter I wrote little sticky notes and different things like that from what my thoughts were going through reading this. And so good. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. This book was so... Can I stop saying this book was so good? Oh my goodness. But anyways, if you're gonna read a book, this one's super quick, super short, and definitely one to pick up in the YA romance fantasy genre. Yes, thoroughly enjoyed it. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching my fall into romance book recommendations. I love a good dark romance, and I think this is the time to truly experience that. These are not thoroughly my darkest reads. I definitely have some other dark romance recommendations that I'll leave linked down below, and the spicy book recommendations that I recently just did has some really great ones that I just talked about. But if you've read any of the books or have any thoughts or opinions, I would love to chat about it, talk about it in the comments down below. And I hope you have a great day and happy reading. Bye.